You're listening to the Business Mindset by RSC Podcast. Episode 8 is about the myth that business and people should conform to the way that I think things should be.
Hello and welcome to our final episode of Business Myths. It's an 8-part series. Today we have RSC Business Group and affiliates. So we have the founder of RSC Business Group, Robert Chun, and we have affiliate RSC Business Group Alpha. Hi, Brandon.
Hello.
And we have myself, RSC Sales. So for our final myth, we're going to tackle the myth that business should be a certain way, or there's a certain way that things have to be, and they're going to magically be that way simply because we wish it so. This myth comes from, the many clients that we work with, and it's a theme that we see often where we generally have to remind clients that because they're the owner, they can have the business be any way that they would like. So any grievances that they have about the business and the way that it functions can be resolved with just a simple reminder that they can build the business any way that they like. And it might be a funny thing to hear at first because it's so obvious, but maybe, Robert, you can elaborate, why do you think that we tend to have to remind people that they can build a business any way that they like?
The reason behind it is we are born into a system or a business of life, and it always seems to run in a particular way. And we think the way it is right now for us is true for everybody. So we can imagine outside of our range of our experience, thought, and feelings most of the time. And we believe making money, having an organization, making a difference, producing things are a particular way. And we forget that we live in our own bubble. So we are used to living in somebody else's bubble and complaining about it, or seeing how great it is, or bragging about it. I have a great job. It's horrible. I have a great job. It's awesome. I have a horrible job. It's great. It's awesome. Whatever. So our life is about making judgments of our bubble reality we have. And then suddenly they say, you should have your own bubble, your own business, the way you want it to run. And then you start creating it. But whatever you create impacts you. But most of the time, what we do is we replicate the bubble that we're in. We don't create anything new. For most of humanity, it's really about copying and improving. There is no original creation. So as a result, we go, business should be this way because that's what I know. This is what I feel comfortable with. When somebody else comes up with something else, then you go, they're doing it wrong. Only if I could dare to tell them what to do. But in reality, it's a whole new creation. So it's hard to recognize it. Good example is when computer came out, it was perfect. It was shared computer in a massive system with a big warehouse-sized computer, and you get to have a link to it. Awesome. Then somebody came along and said you can have your own private computer at home with a little box about this big. And you said, this is crazy. And then later somebody said, you don't need the computer, you just need the interface because you could be a part of the internet. Every time it changed the way we make money, we pay our bills, we receive our goods. And it was made wrong every step of the way because it destroyed our perception of what was there. But in effect, it was simply a layer on top of layer on top of layer. But we like to believe it should be figured away because we feel comfortable. Of course, you live in a ranch and you're supposed to raise horses. Of course, you work in a factory and you're supposed to build a factory. Of course, you're in the Middle East and you're supposed to build high-rise buildings out of sand of nothing. Things like that. So reality is what we're exposed to. And we have all of us share one thing in common. There should be a particular way, the one that we know, one that you know. Because for you, your business is the way exactly is supposed to be for you because you're clear that's the way it's supposed to run. And then we fight amongst ourselves. We're like silly children in many ways. Anyway, that's what I can say about it.
So the client should pay. The employee should already know, there should be more business this month. I shouldn't have a downtime, even though I know it happens every single summer.
Right.
My business partner should be doing things this way. I have to pay taxes, you name it, whatever it might be. Um, there is definitely like a certain way that we would prefer business to be, or personally our own businesses to be, and our lives as well. So there's a wishing, a constant wishing for the way things should be.
Right. And we're born into the agreement. Business exists before our bodies were born. Business will exist after our bodies are gone. Whatever the consensus reality we create is. So we're born into the world of taxes and corporations because a bunch of people before we were born, and here we are, we swear we're supposed to pay taxes. We swear all things are supposed to be. But eventually, 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, they're going to look back up on us and go like, I can't believe those people live that way. Can you imagine? Because if you had told you there'll be a global enterprise 500 years ago, 700 years ago, they'll say, except for East Indies Trading Company, forget it. Yeah, so there's exceptions to the rule, but that's about it.
The certain way that things should be, although it occurs like it should be a certain way, is very rarely a way that it should be. It's the way that it is right now, and the way that you would want something to be. And the power of business ownership lies in your ability, however small or however great, depending on the size of your business, is to create or be able to create whatever way you want it to be.
Right. That is called freedom for most people because they have choice. And by being a business owner, you can live the way you want to, more or less, inside of the jurisdiction of the business. Outside of it, you're part of the agreement of the rest of society. But inside of it, you can have it any way which you want it to be. That's the power of being a business owner. That's the beauty of being in this life and owning a business. Because inside the business, the key word is inside the business structure, you could have anything you want it to be. Anything.
What are some ways that business owners can remind themselves that they can have it any way that they want? Or maybe I'm jumping ahead, actually. Let's maybe chat a little bit about the emotional impact often that regresses people into, they're in the business, they're in charge, but they're behaving like they're not in charge, or they're not responsible. They're behaving like maybe, an employee is kind of reminding them of their parent and they are powerless, or there's a situation with clients or something like that, and they forget that they're the business owner and that they set up the business the way that it is.
I don't think that they actually regress. I think that that's the way they started. When they started the business, they didn't come from it like, I can create everything and design everything. They already had an idea as to the way business should be and what it is and what it's not. And so they started the business that way inside of those judgments or opinions. And so then they just continue. I remember speaking to some people about scheduling things in the calendar. A lot of people resist that. They don't want to do it. And what I noticed is that there were certain common reasons among the people who didn't want to do it. And one of them was it felt like they were being told what to do, that they had no control, no freedom. But they're the ones putting everything in the calendar. They get to choose what to put in the calendar. So I would just remind them that they are actually the ones in control of the calendar, not the calendar in control of them. I mean, they control the calendar to tell for the calendar to tell them what to do, but ultimately they are in control. Once they realized or were reminded that they're actually in control, then things shifted for them. The other resistance to scheduling in a calendar was that there's no spontaneity. Again, it's a version of control or freedom. So once they were told that, well, they can allocate as much time as they choose to spontaneity. Basically, it's up to them to design how much spontaneity do they want in life, how much freedom. They can just have a whole day or multiple days or a certain amount of time every day for just doing whatever they choose to, whatever they feel like at that moment in time. And they can always move things around in their calendar. That was the other part. where they thought, oh, if it's scheduled in my calendar, it's written in stone, I can't move it. Well, you can. It's your calendar. You can reschedule it, move it to another day if you choose to. A lot of people don't realize how much control they actually have.
Very well said and illustrated. And that goes for all aspects of business.
And life.
You're in charge of your life. And you can have any opinions, judgments, or thoughts you may have. And whatever judgment you may have of other people applies to you. So that's the joke of this life, the way it's designed. You can have any opinion, judgments you want to have, then you're bound by it. What we do is we like to be free, and then we want other people to be not free. And then what ends up happening is you end up being not free because your boundaries now, it ties you. And then you get upset because you created it. It's easier to have causality live outside of yourself. Then you can still blame people. But same thing for us for business, because you go, it should be this way. And then if you build it other way, you go, I built it this way because you can't just go, because I want to. Because I built this way because I wanted a conflict, because I want to have issues. I want to work out my daddy issues with my dad. In my case, right? I built the business because I showed my dad he was wrong. Then later on, he didn't care. It was the only one that I cared about was me. And so it's like, okay, then I have no reason to have this business anymore. Why do I want this business? So I put another reason: to make money, to be successful, to build organization, to change the world. So as we grow older, our reasons for business changes and our expectation of business changes. And that every time you swear, this is the answer until next time. Yeah. That's a joke of this business.
Yeah. I remember I had my first business, and I didn't have to work anywhere else. And I did it. It was like, I would say 8 years of suffering. I was really incompetent at business. Especially the version 1, like the first start of the business.
Mm-hmm.
I knew as soon as I started a business and it started to function and work and be profitable, I would be okay. I knew that my skills lied more in the organizational part of it, or with multiple people. But I had a lot of challenges with version 1 and coming up with the product. And it was only when I met you, Robert, that, everything really started taking off for me. And I had been kind of suffering, attempting being a business owner, entrepreneur for 6 years, something like that. And now I finally had a business, and I went through so much suffering, so much perseverance to get this business. And I was miserable. I was so unhappy. And I was laying in bed, and I was just staring at the ceiling in my misery. I've got my hands like on my stomach, like almost like a corpse. Like I'm just ready. It's just so dramatic, right? Very on brand for how I am. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I'm supposed to have energy. And there was like this whole supposed to conversation. I'm supposed to have energy. I'm supposed to want to do this. I'm doing it for myself. I'm supposed to be happy. And there was this whole entire piece of the business that was supposed to happen that wasn't happening. And I just had a business. And I was just racking my brain. What on earth was going on? So I created a business to become a version of myself that I liked, because I saw other business owners and they looked so sharp and they looked so inspiring and they were so confident and self-assured, and they were respected by people. And I wanted to be different. I wanted to not be myself. So I thought that the business and me being a business owner would change me, change Aurelia, the very fabric of my makeup. And I chuckled because I so badly wanted to be a different version of myself. And I was so inspired by that version of the business owner, which not all business owners are inspiring or anything like that, but it's just like this kind of thing this archetype that I built up. And I chuckled because I went through so much suffering where I could have just been that version. I could have just been inspiring. Like, I did not have to do all of that stuff. And, in that moment I figured out that I didn't really, after 8 years of a lot of stress and a lot of sacrifice. I have this business. I didn't really even want it, but now because I suffered so much, I had to run it. So I'm like, okay. And then on top of it, I owed it to myself to become the version of myself that would go through all of that. So I remember getting up. I remember looking for gym memberships, and I started moving, and things definitely changed. I became much closer to the version of what I wanted to be, and business became even easier because the pressure of the business changing me or turning me into somebody was lifted. And now the business could just be a business.
That's a good example of how sometimes people are trying to make the business into something that it's not. It would be a version of people using the wrong tool for the wrong job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let me try to, I don't know, use my pliers as a hammer,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Or a feather
Business
as a
has
hammer, right?
well, if you use hammer for toothbrush, then at some point you don't need toothbrush, right? It's about understanding what is the tool or what is its purpose, what can it do, and then working with it the way it is, or find a different tool for a different purpose.
I remember my first business that I built. It was a renovations business. I had to close it down soon after because I was not doing very well in life in general. I didn't like the way that I was operating in life. Like I was disorganized. I didn't have the best relationships with people, and there was just so much that wasn't working in my life. And I decided to open up a business to make sure that there was something working in my life. However, the business was just a parallel version of more of what I had in my life. So the way that I did life is the way that I did business. And then I had these two kind of glaring examples of something I didn't like that were like staring back at me. So I was disorganized in my life. I was disorganized in my business. And they were glaring, and it was so uncomfortable to operate my business because it was just more of me. Whereas in employment, it was at least a bit of a change. It was somebody else in charge, and it was their vision and the way that they structured everything. So there was a bit of a change. But here, the realization was like, oh my God, I don't even get a break from myself. So for me personally, business had an element of having to learn to like myself in the way that I am and to create the life that I wanted and to have it operate the way that I wanted.
So really, business changed you, right?
Business was like a mirror to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very vocal mirror.
Mm-hmm. Very vocal.
And business made me a better person. I used to be somebody that didn't care about my own happiness, and I just wanted the result. I just wanted to produce a result. And then somebody that I was working with said, I make more money when I prioritize my happiness. And I was like, oh, okay. Let me check out this happiness thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because before it's like I knew there was like a self-indulgence to happiness. Like I knew it would make my existence happier, but it was not a value for me. I didn't care about it. But if now there was like a profit attached to it, I was like, okay, let me try this out. So I tried out being happy and generate more happiness and get curious about what makes me happy, doing activities that make me happy, structuring things in a way that would make me happier, and prioritizing happiness, whereas before it was just something like, I don't know, it's for other people. And I saw that my income increased.
Shock.
Right? And because it increased and my value was for profits, I prioritized happiness. And so now there are days where I'm supremely tired. Not that I worked long, but I just gave a lot of myself. But I am so happy. And in a way, having discovered that happiness creates profits, I implemented that into my business. And now my business has a general structure to make everybody happy. And I get calls and I'm, on sales calls with prospects and they're like, and I hear their voices, oh, really? That's how this is? I'm like, yeah, this is how I created it. Because I knew it would make my prospects and my clients happy. I built it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're like, oh, this is wonderful. Wait, you mean this is like this? And I don't have to. I'm like, no, that was silly. Nobody needed that. That was not profitable. And it was a lot more work on us. Right? So I added these things into my business that made me happier and in turn make my clients happier and then my employees happier. And something that used to be such a wasteful idea, an idealization of something, it was so minute and unimportant, became my greatest source of profit and success. It was that curiosity, I think. So when we started off the episode is I definitely had a lot of set views, but the opportunity there is to question your own views and to try on different things and see if they work.
I found that a lot of the things I was trying to avoid or run away from, I tended to get quite a bit of it. What worked is accepting certain things. So, for example, I remember originally I didn't want a career where I spend a lot of time in front of the computer. That's why I decided, okay, I don't want to do computer animation or special effects and that kind of stuff, because then I'd spend my whole day in front of a computer. Well, I mean, I spend much of my day in front of a computer. I don't have to, but that's the way I've designed it, right? I wanted variety. I want to avoid boredom. I do get variety, but naturally, with business, there's a bunch of repetition. There are a lot of things that are, in my opinion, monotonous or tedious or the same to do, which that's just part of life. Like I need to brush my teeth. I don't really make that exciting. I just do it and get it done. I don't like writing. I just like the activity of writing, but I take copious notes. And before, I used to have just lots of pieces of paper with notes, right, to be organized. So there are a bunch of things. Oh, I don't want to have. I don't want to meet new people. Well, too bad. Like I speak to a whole bunch of new people. It took years, but I eventually got better and better at it.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I was the type of person who just stand in the corner of the room and hope that someone else approached me to speak to them. So that was one of the things. And I think overall it connects to responsibility and accountability. So that's going back to that people can have their business or design their business any way they choose. It comes down to taking responsibility, taking control, which requires taking responsibility for, okay, I designed it this way. I created this. Or at least I started the business and now I'm here. Now what am I going to do with it? If I don't like certain things, what am I going to do about it? If I want something bigger, if I want to grow it bigger, or if I want it smaller, if I want simpler, what am I going to do about it? Instead of blaming external circumstances or other people or thinking that it should be a certain way or it shouldn't be this way, it becomes, okay, well, taking responsibility, then I can actually do something about it to make it into what I want it to be or what I choose it to be. And there will naturally be hiccups along the way, right? It won't go perfectly, but I can get it closer and closer to what I want it to be.
Eliminating that resistance, because you're going to have to do those tasks regardless, at least eliminates the suffering. That's the optional part.
Or someone has to do those tasks.
Exactly.
Right? I could just hire someone to do the things that I don't want to do or I'm not good at.
And you can decide when you hire them, how long. A lot of the times when I do things I don't like, I think of it as, this is just temporary. I just have to do version 1, which I'm not good at, which is very confronting, I think, for most people when they're not good at something, because we do like to lean into the skills that we're good at. And a lot of the clients that I work with, they're very established in one area and they just need to put in 10% And another one, I have an example. I have a client, he loves to network. He loves to network. He will never reach out to the person a second time. So he just meets a lot of people for the first time. So he just likes to network, but he doesn't like to follow up with them, do a second message, even an automated message. He doesn't like to put them into a CRM. He just wants to meet a lot of people. If he just did 10% of follow up, okay, which is the smallest amount, he would have such a huge return on his time. But because he's not good at it, it's confronting. He has to put it into his calendar. He has to sit down. He has to have someone hold him accountable to do it because he doesn't like it so much. And, he feels bad because then he has to utilize the support of other people to do that. Like there is this big, huge gap there between him following up with somebody. It's such a challenge that it just doesn't end up happening. And it's a huge loss in profits. So when I look at business, and my clients are my biggest teachers because I get to see what they're doing. And I naturally know that whatever they're doing that I don't, and I will admit it a little bit that I judge them in the moment as a human being, although I try not to. I know that whatever they're doing that seems illogical to me, I'm going to do the same. I know that I'm going to be doing the same thing in whatever version I'm doing it. I always tell myself that done is better than not done at all. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And that I just need to do version 1. And as long as I do the functions that are required for business, which is a great highlight for what we're thinking of our next series, is the kind of functions of each department. We want to go through that. So stay tuned. But there are certain activities that need to happen in business. And not everybody's going to be good at that activity. And the way that I approach those activities that need to be done, I set myself more time for that activity than I humanly think is needed. And I always exceed that time limit. So anything that I don't like to do, I give myself, even though the task is half an hour, I will give myself a day. I will schedule rewards like a massage. I will have someone hold my hand and be accountable to it and make sure to get it done because I know how challenging it is for me and how much I'm resisting it. And I also know invariably how important that function is to the overall success of the business. So it's not about how you get it done, just as long as you get it done. And then the activities that you don't like doing, as long as they get done, and you might be the first person to do them and not like them, and the business will definitely appreciate you doing them, you can have someone that will enjoy doing that activity in the future. And that might be something you earmark for, this is the first thing that needs to get replaced.
For the longevity of the business, then yes. In the short term, if, let's say, for me, if I'm the only one who can do it or is around to do it, a particular task, then the sooner I just let go of my opinions and judgments about the task, then the resistance goes away, and then it just becomes a task to do, just like anything else, like brushing my teeth. I don't enjoy it. I don't dislike it. It just is. And it just takes a certain amount of time.
I remember as a child when I discovered that you have to brush your teeth every single day, I held a riot. I protested in the bathroom against brushing my teeth. I was so upset. This was the daily activity. How dare they? This is horrible. This was torture. The same thing over and over again. And so I think my aunt, she was like, okay, you stay in the bathroom for as long as it takes you to brush your teeth. And I remember sitting there resisting it. I was so mad. And I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there and it was hours. I was very committed. And then I finally brushed my teeth and left and it was over.
You're here.
I'm here.
And you still have teeth.
I still have teeth, yes.
There's parts of life that we still have to go through, like sleeping, eating, brushing teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And the business, though, doesn't have to be, it provides income for us. It gives camaraderie, people, employees, and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's pure creation. And we live from restriction that is supposed to be a particular way. But if you let that restriction go, you can have it any way which you want it to be. It's very plastic. It can be big or small, can be funny, can be hard work, whatever you want it to be. So what I want to let people know is you're born into this world where business and life already existed, and you're told how it could run, how it's possible to run in a particular way. But don't get stuck, because in reality, it could be whatever you dream it to be. It's a magic machine.
As long as you're willing to do the work or pay people to do the work to build it that way.
That's the only catch. That's the only catch. As long as you're willing to have the work done, whether it is through you or other people, as long as you're willing to share, you can do it. A lot of people want to grow the business, help other people do the work, not share in the gains, right? And they cannot grow. As long as you're willing to give away most of it or parts of it, you can have it grow as much as you want it to be. That's the joke of life. More you give, more you get. And you get smaller chunks, but you get a lot of those smaller chunks, you get the whole thing or more. You know, I'd rather have a 1% of 1,000 people's production than 100% of one person.
Give the clap. Yeah, I agree.
I agree too.
Thank you so much to everyone who tuned into this series. We hope you enjoyed our business myths. We welcome your feedback, your thoughts. Please get in touch with us. Stay tuned for our next series. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
The Business Mindset by RSC Podcast is brought to you by Robert Chun at rscbusinessgroup.com, Aurelia Usita at rscsales.ca, and Brandon Ling at rscbga.com. Music is provided by Davey Harris at daveyharris.com.